The research station Kepler 442b hummed with quiet efficiency as Dr. Elena Vesquez made her final rounds through the xenobiology lab. 3 months into humanity's first contact with an alien species, the initial excitement had settled into routine scientific work. The Zephyrians, as they'd been dubbed, appeared peaceful enough, tall, graceful beings with crystalline skin that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. Their technology was clearly advanced, their ships elegant works of art that made human vessels look like crude metal boxes. Elena paused at the observation deck, watching the Zephyrian delegation ship hovering silently above the research station. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see the alien vessel's smooth curves catching the light of Kepler 442's binary suns. Everything about first contact had gone smoother than anyone dared hope. The Zephyrians had approached with careful diplomacy, sharing basic language protocols and expressing interest in cultural exchange. "Still can't believe we're really doing this," muttered Jake Morrison, the station's head of security, as he joined Elena at the observation window. His weathered face showed the strain of the past months. Being responsible for humanity's safety during first contact wasn't exactly covered in any training manual. Elena nodded, still staring at the alien ship. "The linguistic analysis team thinks they'll have full translation protocols ready within the week. Once we can have proper conversations beyond basic concepts, who knows what we'll learn." Jake's expression remained skeptical. 20 years of military service had taught him that things rarely went as smoothly as they appeared. "Something bothers me about how perfect this has all been. They show up, they're friendly, they want to talk. In my experience, when something seems too good to be true." Before Elena could respond, the station's communication system crackled to life. "All senior staff to the main conference room immediately. Priority Alpha." The voice belonged to Commander Sarah Chen, the station's director, and her tone carried an urgency that made Elena's stomach tighten. The conference room buzzed with nervous energy as the senior staff assembled. Commander Chen stood at the head of the table, her usually composed demeanor showing cracks of strain. Beside her stood Dr. Michael Torres, the chief linguist, his face pale with exhaustion. "We've had a breakthrough in the translation protocols," Chen began without preamble. "Dr. Torres has been working around the clock to decode more complex Zephyrian communications. What he's discovered changes everything." Torres stepped forward, his hands shaking slightly as he activated the holographic display. Streams of alien text floated in the air, accompanied by what sounded like musical chimes, the Zephyrian language. "We've been monitoring their internal communications," Torres said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The basic translation we've been using only covered their formal, diplomatic language. But their casual communications, their real conversations." The translated text appeared beneath the alien symbols, and Elena felt her blood turn to ice as she read. "The specimens show remarkable docility. Their defensive capabilities appear minimal. Preliminary assessment suggests harvesting can begin within 1 rotation. Confirmed. The soft tissue analysis indicates optimal protein content. The smaller specimens should provide excellent neural material for the enhancement protocols. Beautiful irony that they welcomed us aboard their own vessel. The hunting ground has been prepared by the prey themselves." The room fell into stunned silence. Elena's mind struggled to process what she was reading. The peaceful, artistic Zephyrians they'd been hosting for months weren't interested in cultural exchange. They were predators, and humanity was their prey. "How long have they been planning this?" Jake's voice cut through the silence, professional calm masking what Elena could see was barely controlled rage. "Based on the communication patterns, since before first contact," Torres replied. "Everything, their approach, their diplomacy, their interest in our culture, it's all been preparation for." He couldn't finish the sentence. Commander Chen stepped forward. "The situation is worse than we thought. We've been analyzing their ship's energy signatures. What we initially interpreted as scientific scanning equipment is actually weapons technology. And, based on what they've been saying, they're not just planning to attack this station." She activated another display, showing Earth in the center with trajectory lines spreading outward. "They refer to Earth as the primary feeding ground. This station, our first contact protocols, everything we've shared about human settlements, we've given them a roadmap to every human colony in known space." Elena felt sick. In their excitement about first contact, humanity had opened their arms to welcome these beings. They'd shared star charts, population data, cultural information, everything a predator would need to hunt efficiently. "What's their timeline?" she managed to ask. "Soon," Chen replied grimly. "Their communications suggest they're waiting for something, some kind of signal or confirmation. Once they receive it, they plan to begin what they call the harvest." The weight of the situation settled on everyone in the room. They were isolated on a research station designed for scientific observation, not military defense. The nearest human vessel was 6 months away. Earth Command didn't even know about this development yet. By the time any message reached them, it would be too late. "There's something else," Torres added, bringing up another set of translations. "They don't just hunt for food. Based on their communications, they're connoisseurs. They rank their prey by various criteria: intelligence, emotional capacity, fear response. They consider humans a particular delicacy because of our emotional complexity." Jake stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "How many of them are there? On the ship?" "Our scans suggest approximately 50 individuals," Chen replied. "But that's not the worst part. They're not alone. This is apparently a scouting mission for a much larger fleet." Elena's scientific mind tried to process the implications. 50 Zephyrians on their ship, with who knows how many more coming. The research station housed 37 humans, most of them scientists with no combat training. Their security consisted of Jake and 3 other guards, armed with standard-issue weapons designed for basic station protection, not alien warfare. "What do we know about their capabilities?" Elena asked, falling back on scientific analysis as an anchor in the chaos. Chen activated another display. "This is where it gets interesting, and terrifying. Their technology is clearly superior to ours in many ways: their ships, their scanning equipment, their communication systems. But Dr. Yamato in the medical bay has been analyzing the biological samples they provided for scientific exchange." Dr. Keiko Yamato, the station's chief medical officer, stepped forward. She was a small woman, but her voice carried authority built from years of frontier medicine. "Their biological structure is fascinating and disturbing," she began. "They're silicon-based, which explains their crystalline appearance. But, more importantly, their physical capabilities are extraordinary. They're approximately 3 times stronger than humans, their reflexes are significantly faster, and their sensory capabilities extend well beyond human ranges." The room grew even quieter as the implications sank in. "However," Yamato continued, "there are potential weaknesses. Their silicon-based biology makes them vulnerable to specific types of sonic disruption. More interestingly, their nervous system appears to be highly centralized. Unlike humans, who can function with significant neural damage, their consciousness seems to depend on a single, primary neural nexus located in what we might consider their head region." "So they can be killed," Jake said bluntly. "Theoretically, yes. But it would require precise targeting, and their physical advantages make direct confrontation extremely dangerous." Elena's mind raced through possibilities. They had no way to warn Earth Command in time. They couldn't escape. The Zephyrian ship controlled all exit routes from the system. Fighting seemed suicidal given the aliens' physical advantages and superior numbers. "There might be another option," she said slowly, an idea forming. "They don't know we've decoded their communications." Commander Chen nodded. "That's our one advantage. They still believe we're ignorant prey. What if we use that?" Elena continued. "They're predators, but they're also clearly intelligent and methodical. Predators have patterns, behaviors that can be exploited." Jake leaned forward, interested despite his skepticism. "What are you thinking?" Elena stood and began pacing, her scientific training taking over. "Every predator has weaknesses. They depend on surprise, on their prey being helpless and unaware. But we know what they are now. We know what they're planning. That changes everything." "But we're still outnumbered and outgunned," Torres pointed out. "Are we?" Elena stopped pacing and turned to face the group. "They see us as weak because we've been acting weak. We've been playing the role of peaceful, naive humans making first contact. But humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being weak. Commander Chan's eyes lit up with understanding. You're suggesting we use their prejudices against them? Exactly. They expect us to be helpless prey. They've planned this entire operation around that assumption. What if we show them that humans are predators too? The room fell silent again, but this time it was a thoughtful silence rather than shocked despair. Dr. Yumoto spoke up first. It's audacious, but it might work. Their entire strategy depends on us behaving predictably. If we can disrupt that. Jake nodded slowly. In military terms, we'd be turning their strengths into weaknesses. Their confidence becomes overconfidence. Their superior numbers mean nothing if we can isolate them. But we'd need a plan, Chin pointed out. Something that accounts for their physical advantages and our limitations. Elena's mind was already working through possibilities. We have advantages they don't know about. We understand our own technology better than they do. We know the station's layout. And, most importantly, we understand human psychology, including our own capacity for violence when threatened. She paused, looking around the room at her colleagues. These were scientists, researchers, people who had dedicated their lives to expanding human knowledge and building peaceful relationships with other species. What she was about to propose went against everything they stood for. We're going to have to become what they think we are, she said finally. Predators. Because right now, that's the only way to save not just ourselves, but every human in known space. Commander Chen stood up, her decision made. Dr. Vasquez is right. We have maybe hours before they act. If we're going to do this, we need to start now. Jake was already thinking tactically. We'll need to split them up, isolate them from each other. Their strength advantage doesn't matter if we can take them one at a time. And, we'll need to make it look accidental at first, Elena added. If they realize we know their plans too early, they might accelerate their timeline or call for backup. Dr. Yumoto spoke up. I can prepare sonic disruptors based on my analysis of their neural structure. If Dr. Vasquez is right about exploiting their weaknesses, we'll need every advantage we can get. Torres nodded. I can monitor their communications, give us advance warning of any changes in their plans. Elena felt a cold determination settling over her. She'd spent her career studying life in all its forms, celebrating the diversity and beauty of the universe. Now she was planning to destroy an entire alien delegation. But, as she thought about the Zephyrians' casual discussions of harvesting humans, of treating her species as nothing more than sophisticated livestock, her scientific objectivity was replaced by something far more primal. The Zephyrians had made a fundamental mistake. They'd encountered humans and assumed that humanity's cooperative, peaceful approach to first contact meant they were weak. They hadn't realized that the same species that had fought its way to the top of Earth's food chain, that had survived ice ages and plagues and wars, that had clawed its way from primitive tool users to interstellar travelers, still carried that predatory heritage in their genes. The aliens were about to learn that the most dangerous predator in known space wasn't some exotic creature with claws and fangs. It was a species that could smile at you over dinner while planning your destruction, that could cooperate with deadly efficiency when threatened, that could turn its own environment into a weapon. They were about to learn about humans. As the senior staff dispersed to begin their preparations, Elena remained in the conference room, staring out at the Zephyrian ship. Somewhere on that vessel, 50 aliens were planning the systematic destruction of her species. They thought they were the hunters and humans were the prey. They were about to discover how wrong they were. The research station continued its quiet hum, but now that sound carried a different meaning. It wasn't the peaceful noise of scientific discovery anymore. It was the sound of predators preparing for a hunt. Elena allowed herself a cold smile as she watched the alien ship through the observation window. The Zephyrians had chosen the wrong species to underestimate. They were about to face the most dangerous predator the galaxy had ever produced, a human who had nothing left to lose. The hunt was about to begin, and, for the first time since this nightmare started, Elena liked humanity's chances. The hunt begins. The maintenance tunnels beneath Research Station Kepler 442b had never been designed for stealth operations. Elena Vasquez crawled through the narrow space, her breath coming in short gasps as she dragged the modified sonic device behind her. 6 hours had passed since the discovery of the Zephyrians' true intentions, and the station had been quietly transformed from a peaceful research facility into an elaborate trap. Through the tunnel's wall panels, she could hear the musical chimes of Zephyrian communication. Dr. Torres had set up hidden speakers throughout the station, allowing the human crew to monitor alien conversations in real time. What she was hearing made her blood run cold. The specimens have shown increased agitation. Perhaps they sense the approaching harvest. Irrelevant. Their primitive detection methods cannot comprehend our true capabilities. The feeding will proceed as scheduled. Elena forced herself to focus on the task at hand. The plan they developed was audacious in its simplicity, relying on the aliens' own assumptions about human weakness. The Zephyrians expected their prey to be helpless, so that's exactly what humanity would appear to be until it was too late. Her communicator crackled softly with Jake Morrison's voice. Epsilon team in position. Beginning phase 1. Elena checked her watch. Right on schedule. From her position in the ventilation system, she could see into the station's main laboratory where Dr. Keiko Yamato was putting on an Academy Award-worthy performance. The small medical officer was hunched over her research station, apparently engrossed in routine bacterial analysis, completely unaware that 3 Zephyrians had entered the lab. The aliens moved with predatory grace, their crystalline skin shifting colors as they approached their unsuspecting victim. Elena had to admire their efficiency, they'd clearly done this before. One moved to block the exit while the other 2 approached Yamato from different angles, cutting off any potential escape routes. This specimen appears ideal for preliminary neural extraction, one of them chimed to the others. The cranial cavity suggests high cognitive function. Elena felt rage building in her chest as she watched the aliens discuss her colleague like a piece of meat. But Yamato was playing her part perfectly, maintaining the illusion of ignorance even as the predators closed in around her. The lead Zephyrian reached out with what Elena had learned was their primary manipulation appendage, a limb that ended in several crystalline projections capable of incredible precision. It moved toward Yamamoto's neck with surgical accuracy, clearly intending to sever her spinal column with minimal damage to the valuable neural tissue. That's when Yamamoto triggered the hidden sonic disruptor built into her research station. The effect was immediate and devastating. The modified device sent out a focused burst of sound waves tuned specifically to the Zephyrian's neural frequency. All 3 aliens convulsed simultaneously, their crystalline bodies resonating with the harmful frequency like breaking glass. But Elena had underestimated their resilience. Instead of collapsing as she'd hoped, the aliens staggered but remained conscious. Worse, their crystalline skin began shifting to deeper, more aggressive colors. They knew they'd been trapped. Deception. The prey shows unexpected cunning. The lead Zephyrian managed to chime, despite the sonic assault. Elena cursed under her breath. The sonic disruptors were effective but not instantly lethal as they'd hoped. The plan would have to adapt. Yamamoto didn't hesitate. She'd spent 15 years providing medical care on frontier worlds, dealing with everything from alien parasites to mining accidents. Her survival instincts were honed to a fine edge. As the lead Zephyrian recovered from the sonic attack and lunged toward her, she grabbed the nearest thing at hand, a titanium bone saw used for xenobiology samples, and swung it with all her strength. The saw connected with the alien's central neural cluster with a sound like shattering crystal. The Zephyrian's body locked up instantly, its sophisticated nervous system unable to function with its primary processing center damaged. It collapsed to the floor, its crystalline skin flickering through random colors before going dark. The other 2 aliens reacted with terrifying speed. One lunged at Yamamoto while the other activated what Elena recognized as a communication device, probably trying to warn the rest of their hunting pack. Elena didn't hesitate. She kicked out the ventilation grate and dropped into the lab, landing behind the Zephyrian with the communicator. Before it could turn, she pressed her own sonic disruptor against its neural cluster and fired at full power. The concentrated sonic burst at point-blank range had the desired effect. The alien's entire nervous system overloaded, and it collapsed like a marionette with cut strings. But Elena's moment of satisfaction was short-lived. The third Zephyrian had caught Yamato and was lifting her off the ground with casual ease, its grip around her throat. Fascinating. The prey species possesses hidden capabilities. This specimen will provide excellent research material before harvesting. Elena found herself face-to-face with her first real test as a predator. The alien was 3 times stronger than her, faster, and had Dr. Yamato as a hostage. Everything about the situation screamed that she should retreat, call for help, find another way. Instead, Elena did something the Zephyrian would never expect. She smiled. "You know what's funny about being a predator," she said conversationally, pulling a small device from her pocket. "You get so focused on your prey that you forget to watch your back." The Zephyrian's head turned slightly, trying to understand what she meant. That moment of confusion was all Elena needed. She activated the device, a simple electromagnetic pulse generator that Jake had rigged up, and every piece of electronic equipment in the lab shut down. But, more importantly, the artificial gravity failed. In the sudden zero gravity, the Zephyrian's strength advantage became meaningless. Worse, their crystalline bodies were clearly not adapted for 3-dimensional maneuvering in microgravity. The alien released Yamato and flailed helplessly as it tried to orient itself. Elena, who'd spent 6 years working on asteroid mining platforms, moved through zero gravity like a fish through water. She pushed off from the nearest wall and slammed into the alien with perfectly calculated momentum, driving her sonic disruptor directly into its neural cluster. The Zephyrian died with what sounded like a musical sigh. As emergency gravity restored itself, Elena helped Yamato to her feet. The doctor was shaken but unharmed, and her eyes showed the same cold determination that Elena felt building in her own chest. 3 down, Yamato said quietly. 47 to go. Elena's communicator crackled. Alpha team reporting. We got 4 of them in engineering. Sonic disruptors worked perfectly when we could get close enough. Another voice joined the channel. Beta team here. We lost Martinez, but we took out 6 aliens in the hydroponics bay. They didn't expect us to use the irrigation system as a weapon. Elena closed her eyes briefly, processing the loss of Martinez, a young botanist who'd been excited about studying alien plant life just this morning. But there was no time for grief now. Gamma team to all units, came Commander Chen's voice. We have a problem. The aliens have figured out what's happening. They're regrouping in the central hub and have taken hostages from the civilian research staff. Elena felt her stomach drop. The plan had been to isolate and eliminate the aliens before they could organize a response. But they'd underestimated the Zephyrian's ability to adapt to unexpected circumstances. How many hostages? Jake's voice cut across the comm channel. 8. Including Dr. Martinez and the linguistics team. Elena cursed. The linguistics team included Dr. Torres, who was essential for monitoring alien communications. Without him, they'd be fighting blind. What's their position? She asked. Central Hub, Level 3. They've barricaded themselves in and are using the hostages as shields. And, Elena, they know we can understand their communications now. They're speaking in what Torres calls their deep language, something even more complex that we haven't been able to translate. Elena looked at Yamato, who was checking the sonic disruptor for damage. How many aliens are we dealing with in total now? Based on successful eliminations, we've taken out 17. That leaves approximately 33, all now aware that we're hostile and organized. The situation had shifted dramatically. What had started as a successful ambush was now a siege scenario, with human civilians caught in the middle. Elena's scientific mind began analyzing the new parameters. Jake, what's the alien's tactical position like? Defensible but not impregnable. They've got good sightlines and multiple escape routes, but they're contained to a single area. The problem is the hostages. We can't use area effect weapons or sonic disruptors without risking civilian casualties. Elena was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then, an idea began to form, something that made use of the aliens' own assumptions about human nature. What if we give them what they expect? She said slowly. Explain, Chen's voice came back. They're predators, but they're also clearly intelligent and sophisticated. They didn't plan to simply slaughter humans, they wanted to harvest us systematically. That suggests they value living specimens over dead ones. Your point? Elena took a deep breath. We offer them a trade. Me for the hostages. The comm channel erupted with voices all speaking at once, but Elena continued over them. Think about it. They've just discovered that humans are more dangerous than they thought. I'm the one who figured out their plan, the one who organized this resistance. From their perspective, I'd be the most valuable specimen they could capture. Absolutely not, Jake's voice cut through the chatter. We're not sacrificing team members. It's not a sacrifice, Elena replied. It's tactical deception. They expect me to be helpless prey, so that's what I'll appear to be. But I won't be going in empty-handed. She looked at the sonic disruptor in her hand, then at Dr. Yamato. An idea was crystallizing, something audacious even by the standards of their current situation. Dr. Yamato, how quickly could you modify these sonic disruptors for delayed activation? Yamamoto's eyes lit up with understanding. With the right components, maybe 20 minutes? Do it. And make sure they're not detectable by the alien scanning technology. Elena activated her communicator. All teams, this is Elena. I'm going to attempt a prisoner exchange. But I need everyone in position for immediate action when I give the signal. Elena, this is insane, Chen's voice carried obvious concern. Maybe. But it's the kind of insane that might just work. These aliens see humans as predictable prey. They're not prepared for a prey species that plans its own capture as part of the hunt. 25 minutes later, Elena stood in the corridor outside the central hub, her hands raised in apparent surrender. She'd stripped off her weapons and equipment, appearing as helpless as possible. Hidden beneath her clothing, however, were 3 modified sonic disruptors, each programmed for delayed activation. The central hub's main door slid open with a soft hiss, and Elena found herself face-to-face with a Zephyrian unlike any she'd seen before. This one was larger than the others, its crystalline skin showing deep purple and gold patterns that suggested high status. When it spoke, even without translation, Elena could hear the authority in its musical tones. The dominant specimen approaches. Fascinating behavioral patterns for prey. Elena forced herself to remain calm as she stepped into the hub. The space was large and circular, designed as a meeting area for the station's crew. Now it had been transformed into an alien command center, with Zephyrians positioned at strategic points throughout the room. The human hostages were clustered in the center, surrounded by aliens with what were clearly weapons, crystalline devices that hummed with energy. Elena could see the fear in her colleagues' eyes, but also determination. They knew the plan. Dr. Torres was among the hostages, and he managed to catch Elena's eye for just a moment. His slight nod told her that he was ready for whatever came next. The lead Zephyrian approached Elena with the confident stride of an apex predator examining its catch. You orchestrated resistance. Unexpected. Prey species do not typically demonstrate such initiative. Elena forced herself to look defeated, allowing just a hint of defiance to show through. We're not animals, she said, hoping her words were being translated properly. We deserve better than being hunted. The alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Deserve. Interesting concept. Do the creatures you consume on your homeworld deserve better treatment? Predation is the natural order. You simply occupy a different position in the hierarchy than you previously understood. Elena felt genuine revulsion at the alien's casual dismissal of human life, but she channeled that emotion into her performance. What do you want? Compliance. Cessation of resistance. In exchange, these specimens will be processed efficiently rather than subjected to prolonged experimentation. Elena looked around the room, counting aliens and assessing positions. 31 Zephyrians, just as estimated. All focused on the hostages and herself. Perfect. And if I refuse, she asked. The lead alien gestured to one of its subordinates, who immediately grabbed Dr. Torres and lifted him off the ground. The linguist gasped as crystalline appendages pressed against his throat. Demonstration of consequences. This specimen's neural material will be extracted slowly, while conscious, unless compliance is achieved. Elena allowed real fear to show in her expression. It wasn't entirely an act. Watching her colleague threaten triggered every protective instinct she possessed. But she also felt a cold satisfaction as she realized the aliens had made a crucial mistake. They were all looking at her. None of them were watching the hostages. "All right," she said, lowering her hands in apparent defeat. "I surrender. Take me instead of them." The lead Zephyrian approached her with obvious satisfaction. Wisdom. You will make fascinating research material. Your species' capacity for sacrifice is particularly intriguing. As the alien reached toward her, Elena triggered the first sonic disruptor with a subtle gesture. The device, hidden in her sleeve, would activate in 10 seconds. "There's just one thing you should know about humans," she said conversationally. "What is that?" Elena smiled, and this time it wasn't an act. It was the smile of a predator who had successfully lured her prey into the perfect position. "We're really, really good at being unpredictable." The first sonic disruptor activated, its focused beam disrupting the neural functions of the three nearest Zephyrians. As they collapsed, Elena triggered the second and third devices, creating a cascade of sonic interference throughout the central hub. But the real surprise wasn't the sonic attack. It was what the hostages did next. Dr. Torres, despite being held by an alien 3 times his size, had managed to conceal a small electromagnetic pulse device. As the sonic disruptors created chaos, he triggered the EMP, shutting down every piece of Zephyrian technology in the room. The other hostages weren't helpless researchers anymore. They were humans fighting for their survival, and they fought with the desperate creativity of a species that had clawed its way to the top of one food chain and wasn't about to be demoted in another. Dr. Martinez, the botanist, used his knowledge of plant toxins to deploy a concentrated aerosol of compounds that interfered with the aliens' respiratory systems. The maintenance crew used their tools as weapons with deadly efficiency. Even the station's cook managed to blind several aliens with a mixture of kitchen chemicals that reacted violently with crystalline surfaces. The battle was brutal but brief. The Zephyrians, caught completely off guard by the coordinated response, found themselves facing not helpless prey but a pack of predators fighting on their home territory. When the chaos settled, 31 aliens lay dead or dying in the central hub. Elena stood in the center of the carnage, breathing hard but victorious. Around her, the human hostages were checking each other for injuries and securing alien technology. But Elena knew their victory was incomplete. There were still Zephyrians on the ship above them, and they'd certainly detected what had happened to their hunting party. Her communicator crackled. "Elena, this is Jake. We're detecting massive energy buildup from the alien ship. I think they're preparing to." The station shook as an energy beam struck the outer hull. Emergency alarms began blaring as hull breach warnings echoed through the corridors. Elena looked up at the ceiling, knowing that somewhere above them, angry aliens were preparing to finish what their hunting party had started. The battle for the station was over, but the war for humanity's survival was just beginning. She activated her communicator. "All teams, report status. We need to prepare for the next phase." As responses came in from around the station, Elena felt a cold satisfaction settling over her. The aliens had learned something important today about humanity. They discovered that humans weren't passive prey waiting to be harvested. They were predators who fought back. And the hunt was far from over. #1 Slap. The Zephyrian mothership's docking bay was a cathedral of crystalline architecture, its walls pulsing with bioluminescent patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Elena Vasquez stood at the center of the vast space, her hands bound behind her back with what appeared to be living crystal, watching as the ship's crew processed the bodies of their fallen hunting party. 3 days had passed since the battle at Research Station Kepler 442b. The station now drifted as a lifeless hulk, its crew presumed dead by the aliens who had bombarded it from orbit. But Elena and 12 other survivors had managed one final deception. They'd hidden in the station's shielded core during the bombardment, then used emergency pods to reach the Zephyrian ship when it approached to investigate the wreckage. It had been Elena's plan, born from the desperate realization that running wasn't an option. The aliens had star charts showing every human colony, and their mothership was just the advance scout for a vast harvest fleet. The only way to stop them was from the inside. The surviving humans had allowed themselves to be captured, playing their roles as defeated prey while secretly carrying modified sonic disruptors and electromagnetic pulse devices hidden in their own bodies, painful but undetectable surgical implants that Dr. Yamato had performed in the station's final hours. Now Elena stood before the apex predator. The creature that emerged from the ship's inner chambers was unlike anything she'd encountered. Where the hunting party had been merely large and dangerous, this being was magnificent in its predatory perfection. It stood nearly 4 meters tall, its crystalline body shot through with veins of what looked like molten metal. When it moved, reality itself seemed to bend slightly around it, as if space-time recognized its authority. The architect of resistance presents herself, it communicated, its voice carrying harmonics that resonated in Elena's bones. Fascinating. Your species continues to demonstrate unexpected complexity. Elena forced herself to meet its gaze, knowing that showing weakness now would doom not just herself but every human in known space. You've made a mistake coming here. The apex predator tilted its massive head, genuinely curious. Elaborate. Your species has been evaluated. Your capabilities have been measured. Your resistance, while impressive for prey, is ultimately futile. That's where you're wrong, Elena replied, her voice steady despite the terror clawing at her chest. You've been evaluating us based on our peacetime behavior. You saw us making first contact and assumed that's who we really are. She gestured around the docking bay, where Zephyrian crew members were still bringing in the bodies of their fallen comrades. 51 of your people died because you didn't understand what humans become when we're threatened. 51 casualties from an ambush represent acceptable losses. The harvest will proceed. Elena shook her head. You still don't get it. This isn't about casualties or acceptable losses. This is about what those deaths mean. The apex predator moved closer, its massive form radiating an aura of barely contained power. Explain. For thousands of years, humans have had a saying, Elena said, drawing on every ounce of courage she possessed. Fuck around and find out. You've just entered the find out phase. Before the alien could respond, Elena triggered the first of her hidden devices. The electromagnetic pulse generator implanted near her heart activated, sending a localized burst of energy through her nervous system and into the crystal bindings holding her hands. The living restraints, dependent on bioelectric fields, died instantly. The apex predator reacted with inhuman speed, lunging toward her with appendages that could have cut her in half. But Elena had spent the past 3 days studying the alien crew, learning their movement patterns, their behavioral quirks, their weaknesses. She ducked under its attack and rolled toward the nearest wall, where the ship's gravity controls were located. Her hands found the crystalline interface and triggered her second implant, a sonic disruptor tuned not to alien neural frequencies but to the specific resonance of Zephyrian technology. The ship's artificial gravity failed. In the sudden weightlessness, Elena's experience in zero-G environments gave her a crucial advantage over the Zephyrians, who had evolved on a high-gravity world and were dependent on their technology for three-dimensional maneuvering. As aliens throughout the docking bay flailed helplessly in microgravity, Elena used the walls to propel herself toward her real target. The other human prisoners. Jake Morrison was floating near a control station, his own crystal restraints still intact. Elena reached him first, triggering her sonic disruptor to free him, then moved to Dr. Yamato, Dr. Torres, and the others. Within seconds, 12 humans were free and armed with whatever they could grab in the weightless environment. But Elena's real surprise was yet to come. Now, she shouted into her calm implant. Throughout the Zephyrian ship, hidden devices activated simultaneously. The other human survivors from the station, the ones who had supposedly died in the bombardment, had been busy during the past 3 days. Using the chaos of the initial attack as cover, they'd infiltrated the ship's systems, planting electromagnetic pulse devices and sonic disruptors throughout critical areas. The ship's main power core flickered as cascading failures spread through its crystalline nervous system. Life support systems stuttered.
Weapons arrays went offline. Navigation shut down completely.
The apex predator let out a sound like shattering mountains as it realized what had happened.
Its perfect crystalline features twisted with something Elena recognized as rage mixed with disbelief. Impossible.
Your technology cannot affect our systems. You're right, Elena replied, grabbing onto a control panel to steady herself in the zero gravity.
Our technology can't affect your systems.
But, your systems can affect each other when we introduce the right kind of interference. She gestured around the chaotic docking bay, where Zephyrian crew members were struggling to regain control of their ship.
See, the thing about being a scientist is that you learn to observe patterns. And, I've been observing yours for 3 days.
The alien's massive head turned toward her, its attention focused with predatory intensity. Your technology is based on harmonic resonance, Elena continued. Your ship is essentially a giant musical instrument, with every system tuned to specific frequencies.
Very elegant, very efficient. Also very vulnerable if you know the right notes to play.
She triggered another implant, sending out a complex series of sonic pulses. Throughout the ship, the harmonic interference pattern spread, causing system after system to fall into destructive resonance with itself.
You will destroy us all. This ship's core will explode if the harmonic cascade continues.
I know, Elena replied calmly.
That's the point. For the first time since the encounter began, she saw something new in the apex predator's crystalline features: fear. Your species' self-preservation instincts should prevent such action. You will die as well.
Elena laughed, and the sound carried no humor at all.
That's what you never understood about humans.
When we're really threatened, when something tries to hunt our children, our families, our entire species, we become willing to do anything to stop it.
Anything at all.
She looked around the docking bay, meeting the eyes of her fellow humans.
Each of them nodded grimly, understanding what she was asking of them.
Besides, she continued, turning back to the apex predator, we're not all going to die. She triggered her final implant, and escape pods throughout the ship began launching automatically. But these weren't just any escape pods, they were packed with every piece of Zephyrian technology the humans had been able to steal, along with detailed recordings of alien communications, ship specifications, and, most importantly, the location of the main harvest fleet. You sacrifice yourselves for nothing. The fleet will still come. Your colonies will still be harvested.
Elena shook her head. No, they won't.
Because in about 6 hours, those escape pods are going to reach human space carrying everything our military needs to know about your species. Your weaknesses, your technology, your plans, everything. She paused, floating closer to the massive alien. But, more importantly, they're going to carry a message that will spread to every human colony in known space. A message that says the Zephyrians thought they could hunt us. The ship shuddered as more systems failed. In the distance, Elena could hear the harmonic wail of the core beginning to destabilize.
What message? The apex predator asked, its voice now carrying notes of desperation.
Elena smiled, and, for the first time in days, it was a genuine expression of joy.
That they were wrong.
The alien lunged at her one final time, its massive appendages reaching out to crush the human who had destroyed everything.
Elena didn't try to dodge.
Instead, she floated directly toward the creature, meeting its charge head-on. At the last possible moment, as crystalline claws closed around her, Elena did something that would become legend throughout human space.
She slapped the apex predator across its angular face. It wasn't a particularly hard slap by human standards.
It carried no special technology, no hidden weapons, no clever scientific tricks. It was just an open-handed blow delivered by a small human to a creature that could have snapped her in half without effort.
But, the symbolism was everything.
The most advanced predator in known space, a being that had hunted and consumed hundreds of sentient species across the galaxy, had been reduced to this, being slapped by its intended prey.
The apex predator froze, its massive form locked in place by the sheer audacity of the gesture. Its eyes, like faceted gems, stared at Elena with something approaching awe.
Impossible, it whispered.
Prey does not strike the predator.
It is not the natural order.
Asterisk maybe not, Elena replied, her hand still stinging from the contact. But, here's the thing about humans, we've never been very good at accepting the natural order. She looked around the dying ship, at her fellow humans preparing for their final moments with calm determination, at the alien crew struggling desperately to save themselves. You want to know what humans really are? She asked the apex predator. We're the species that looked at a universe full of bigger, stronger, faster predators and decided we didn't care. We're the species that took a world full of creatures with claws and fangs and venom and made them afraid of us. The ship's core reached critical resonance. Through the walls, Elena could see the crystalline structure beginning to crack and split. We're the species that turned being weak into a strength, that made intelligence deadlier than any weapon, that learned to pack hunt the biggest predators in existence. She floated closer to the alien, her voice dropping to a whisper. And, most importantly, we're the species that will burn ourselves to ash before we let anyone else decide our fate. The apex predator's crystalline features began to crack as the ship's harmonic cascade reached its body. Its perfection, so dependent on precise frequencies and careful resonance, was coming apart in the chaos. Your species will be remembered, Asterisk had managed to say as its form began to disintegrate. Damn right we will, Elena replied. The ship exploded in a cascade of harmonic destruction that could be seen from 3 star systems away. When the light faded, nothing remained but expanding gas and debris and 12 escape pods carrying the most important intelligence in human history. 6 hours later, Admiral Sarah Kim stood in the command center of Earth Defense Station Alpha, watching the intelligence reports stream in from the recovered escape pods. Around her, the finest military minds in human space worked frantically to process what they were learning. The alien fleet's position is confirmed, reported Commander Zhang from the tactical station. 47 vessels, currently holding position in the Vega system. What about their weaknesses? Kim asked. All documented. Dr. Vasquez's team provided complete sonic frequency analyses, technological specifications, and tactical assessments. We can adapt our weapons systems within 72 hours. Kim nodded, but her attention was fixed on the final message Elena had recorded before the ship's destruction. The young scientist's face filled the main screen, her expression calm despite knowing she was about to die. To anyone receiving this transmission, Elena's recorded voice said, "My name is Dr. Elena Vasquez, and I want to make sure the galaxy understands what happened here. The Zephyrians made the mistake of thinking that humanity's peaceful nature meant we were weak. They thought that because we approached first contact with open hands, we didn't have claws." She paused, looking directly into the camera. They were wrong. When something threatens human children, human families, human civilization itself, we become the most dangerous predators in existence. Not because we're stronger or faster or more advanced, but because we're willing to do whatever it takes to protect what we love. The recording showed Elena looking around at her fellow crew members, all of them preparing for their final moments with quiet dignity. The Zephyrians wanted to harvest us. Instead, they're about to discover why humans became the dominant species on a world full of predators. They're about to learn that the most dangerous creature in the universe isn't the one with the biggest claws or the strongest bite. Elena looked back at the camera, and her smile was the expression of a predator who had successfully completed her hunt. It's the one that refuses to be prey. The recording ended, and Admiral Kim stood in silence for a long moment. Around her, the command center buzzed with preparation for the coming battle, but her thoughts were on the 13 humans who had sacrificed themselves to give their species a fighting chance. "Admiral," Commander Zhang called out. "We're receiving transmissions from human colonies throughout the sector. They're asking for orders." Kim straightened, feeling the weight of command settling on her shoulders. Elena Vasquez and her team had given humanity everything they needed to fight back. Now it was up to the rest of them to finish what those brave scientists had started. "Send this message to every human ship, station, and colony in known space," she ordered. "The Zephyrians think they're hunting us. It's time to show them what happens when humans hunt back." She paused, thinking of Elena's final gesture, a simple slap that had symbolized humanity's refusal to accept their place as prey. "And make sure they understand," she continued, "that this started when one human woman looked the most dangerous predator in the galaxy in the eye and slapped it across the face.
3 days later, the Zephyrian harvest fleet arrived at Earth expecting to find helpless prey. Instead, they found 12,000 human warships waiting for them, armed with weapons specifically designed to exploit every weakness Elena's team had discovered. The battle lasted 6 hours.
When it ended, not a single Zephyrian vessel remained intact.
News of the victory spread throughout the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds, carrying with it the story of Dr. Elena Vasquez and the slap that changed everything. The tale grew in the telling, becoming legend, becoming myth, becoming a warning to any species that might consider humans an easy target.
The galaxy had learned something important that day.
Humans might approach with open hands and peaceful intentions. They might offer friendship and cooperation and cultural exchange.
But, when threatened, they became something else entirely.
They became predators. And the most dangerous predator in existence was the one that chose when to hunt.
Years later, when xenobiologists studied the remains of the Zephyrian ships, they found something interesting in the wreckage.
Carved into the hull of what had been the flagship, someone had etched a simple message in a dozen different languages: fuck around and find out.
Below it, in smaller text, was a dedication for Dr. Elena Vasquez, who taught the galaxy that humans slap back.
The message became humanity's unofficial motto for interstellar relations. It was polite but firm, welcoming but not weak.
It said everything that needed to be said about how humanity approached the universe. They came in peace.
But they were prepared for war. And if you made the mistake of treating them as prey, you would learn exactly why humans had become the apex predators of Earth and why they had no intention of giving up that title among the stars.
The hunt was over. Humanity had won.